PhillyStartupLeaders.org presents the 2010 Founder Factory Conference, recorded November 17, 2010, at the World Cafe Live in Philadelphia. Brought to you by Morgan Lewis, providing comprehensive transactional, litigation, labor and employment, and intellectual property legal services to clients of all sizes, from global Fortune 100 companies to just-conceived startups across all major industries. On the web at morganlewis.com. And by CHARIOT Solutions, an IT consulting firm specializing in application development and systems integration using Java and open source technologies. On the web at chariotsolutions.com. And by Cohen Partners, an independent insurance brokerage that delivers integrated solutions to meet client needs in business, benefits, life, and personal insurance. Also by Monetate, the leading independent provider of testing, targeting, and personalization for websites. On the web at monetate.com. And by leadnomics, an industry leader in lead generation and performance marketing. On the web at leadnomics.com. In this program, The Art of the Pivot with Adam Schran, founder and CEO of Ascentive.
So what we want to talk about now is actually the art of the pivot, and we have an amazing speaker here, Adam Schran, which we'll get into in a minute here. But the key for the pivot is really, whenever you're building a startup, you come to this point where you realize that all the factors are changing, and you have to look at your business and make some honest assumptions and know what to do next. So Adam has done some great work in that, and we're really excited.
We actually had a bio produced for Adam, but we just spent about 20 minutes with him personally, and he is such an energetic, dynamic individual and shared a few stories with us, so we decided to scrap the bio and give a couple of those anecdotes to introduce him coming up.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Adam just told us, which we think is great, he started the company at 22. It's called Ascentive, with his younger brother who's 11 years old. They've since grown that to a $21 million company. And one of the things, I'm sure he'll go into it more, that they were kind of the pioneers that built that software that said, hey, your computer could be faster, it could do better things, you can get on the internet. And one of the things that Adam was just telling us about is they were one of the first companies to say, hey, we're marketing on the internet now, and maybe we could start marketing on TV and make that change. So Adam's going to tell us all kinds of stuff about that. Some cool facts about Adam. He's actually a local. He lives down in Old City, so he's been hiding from the group, but we found him, so that's awesome. And he's also had a history of actually introducing himself to people randomly. So he's got mentors such as Paul Abdul, Richard Branson.
He's got a lunch with Gorbachev soon.
Yeah, so he's one of those guys that, if you just write the letter, they end up answering. So I'm going to start writing him letters so we can get some lunches and we'll be in good shape. So without anything else, here he is, Adam Schran. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so just so I can understand who is here, do me a favor and raise your hand if you are a founder or you would like to be one. And venture capitalists, keep your hands down unless you're, in the wrong profession. Okay, so nearly everybody. And put your hand up if you didn't just raise your hand. I'm curious how many people. So just a few people. Great. Well, as my announcers mentioned, I've had my company here in Philadelphia. I've been doing it for the last 12 years. And if I could go back in time and know then what I know now, I'm sure we all say this, I could have saved so much time, so much money, and I would have gotten probably 10 times further down the road, 10 times as fast. So my goal for everyone here today is to just give you a few takeaways that you can use to leverage your business. I'm not here to, win approval, entertain you. Hopefully that'll happen. But what I would really love to do is for you to get at least one takeaway, and hopefully 3, out of today that you can apply to your business and get the most out of it. So to frame the conversation, what I want you to do, if you have something to write with or put it into your iPhone or whatever, is what do you feel right now is the biggest opportunity in your business that you can change right now to take your business to the next level? Forget about the operations and the day-to-day stuff. What could you change if you had the time and resources in your business right now to take it to the next level? So if you're a founder right now, or if you are not a founder, but there's something that you could do to become one, what would that thing be? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds right now to write that down. Okay, another 10 or 15 seconds. Okay, great. What I'm really interested in knowing, we'll get back to this later on, is if this changes as a result of what we've talked about today. And I don't expect it to for everybody, but it'll be neat to see if that happens for some people. So, topic for today is the art of the pivot. Until last week, I didn't really even know the word, and people asked me to give a speech on that, and it was an interesting way to sort of frame and rehash my experience and a lens through which I've analyzed some of the things I've done in my business. And as I wrote this speech, what I started to realize was that over time, what has caused my business to succeed the most is actually developing the art and the practice of the pivot, learning how to change and learning what keeps us back from changing and learning, what to do to maximize the speed of the change and the success of the change and the accuracy of the change. And really interesting things when it comes to the logistics, the execution of this, the planning of this, and also, probably most importantly, the psychology of this. What in your own mind and your own circuitry could be holding you back right now from that you don't even know about? What weird ways could you be rationalizing not taking your business to the next level? So my goal for you, as you apply some of the things that you've gotten today from this talk and from other talks, is for you to prosper without killing yourself, with the right amount of time, the right returns on your investment of time and money, and all your precious resources. I want you to prosper, and if you do, I want to celebrate it. Come back to me. I'll give you my email address later on, and I would love to hear what the actual stories are. Because if after this speech you're not able to apply anything, the speech doesn't succeed. You're investing your precious time and your precious resources in being here. So the goal is for us to partner up right now to figure out how you can get the most out of these messages and how to leverage what you're doing. Okay, so. And I do want to say it does take time. I was having lunch with Bart Blatstein a couple of weeks ago. He's the guy that owns the Piazza and a bunch of real estate in Philly. And like me, he likes to sort of collect entrepreneurs and study success. And he realized that the one thing that all of his most successful friends had in common that had reached sort of the pinnacle of accomplishment is that they had all put in at least 20 years into what they were doing once they reached that 20-year threshold. I've also heard thresholds like the 10,000-hour rule. The Beatles became successful after playing in strip clubs in Hamburg for 10,000 hours. So, that's another rule of thumb. I don't know if it's true or not, but want to pass the fact on. So, in some ways, the pivot is the only real thing in business. Look at Microsoft. They had a desktop application strategy. Now they don't seem to have a compelling internet strategy, and they're shrinking. Google's growing. So it's not only incumbent on you to pivot yourself and what you do, but also to make sure that your business keeps up with the times and the market conditions. So what I have today are 10 tips, 10 top pivots that have made the most difference in my business. And if only one or two of them can be applied to leverage your business, then I will be totally happy. So, all right. Number one, and this has been a really interesting thing for me, going back to Richard Branson. He's always been a hero of mine, and I've just been impressed with how he can start airlines and record companies and an island in the Caribbean, and he just seems to be so unblocked to doing new things. And so my question has always been, what does he do to do those things that we don't do? Where are we blocked? And when I started to meet with him and connect with him and also, read his books, I discovered that he's learning disabled. He grew up with dyslexia, has a hard time reading and writing, but he's not implementation disabled. And a lot of people are flipped around the other way, where we are, we can read and write, without problems, but we cannot implement things without problems. So my question became, what does Richard Branson do to become not implementation disabled, to not be crippled from implementing things? And I discovered that one of his things that he does sort of unconsciously is, obviously he gets up every day and plans out his day and writes down a few things he wants to do. But he's very good at boiling down in his list, his approach to task management. So this is the number one pivot, task management. What he does is he boils them down to the most essential tasks, those core tasks. So he won't say start a company, but what can you really do in life? You can write something, you can call somebody, you can leave someone a message, you can research something and make a decision. So instead of saying I want to start a new business, whether insurance or anything else, he'll say I want to call Bob to do some research or start a dialogue about this. So once I switch my personal task management from these sort of big, lofty to-do items to the core tasks of who do I want to talk to, what do I want to write, read, decide on, research, and those basic things, my business was able to get twice as many things done twice as quickly, and that really took us to the next level. So if you have a list of things that you're doing, every so often you want to delete it, entirely wipe it out, start fresh, because it's just going to grow monstrous. Has anyone had this happen? You know, the to-do list? All right. And and in the end, what you want to do is manage yourself and the team to speed of execution and time of implementation. So I don't care, you know, about a goal, is my business going to get a growth of 20% this quarter? The goal is, are we going to get launched in Japan now or 2 weeks from now? Are we going to set up 8 customer service reps in Germany now or 2 weeks from now? Time to implementation, speed of execution is critical. So, you know, if you're dealing with venture capitalists, yeah, your projections, performance matter, and all that kind of thing. But in my experience, managing your team to timely execution is really critical, and becoming expert task managers is really a very important pivot. Okay. Great. And if that one resonated with you, you know, for that one, and as we go along, make sure to write some of these things down for yourself. The next one, I'm just going to gloss over and then give you a way you can research it on yourself, is the people pivot. So how can you attract top talent to your business? Everyone says you have to have an A team, you know, a B idea with an A team, an A execution is better than, you know, an A idea with a B team and B execution. So how can you attract those A players? The best set of tools in your toolbox for attracting the best players is something I've found called top grading. And there's a website that talks about it called smarttopgrading.com. Has anyone heard of this? Put your hand up. A few people. I would love for everyone today to go research that. I don't have any skin in the game with them. I've just found it useful for me. But the whole approach with top grading is that most businesses only hire 25% A players. You know, 25% of your team ends up being an A player, and the goal there is to get your team up to 90% A players out of all the people that you hire, saving your business tremendous costs and, more importantly, opportunity cost. And some of the approaches they take, you know, you can research this on your own, but some of the approaches they take are a detailed career history interview where you go through every step of their career, ask them strengths and weaknesses, successes and failures along the way. And when you do that, something really interesting happens. Some people that can't handle the emotional demands of the job, they just come undone. I've seen people cry, curse out their past managers. I've seen people, you know, react and start to shift and look around and get all nervous. There's something powerful that happens when you ask about someone's career history, where the A players, even if they've had mistakes along the way, and even if they've had failures along the way, they have it in the right perspective, and they can talk about it compellingly, and they love talking about all their successes and failures along the way. When you have an A player, they want to talk about their successes, they want to talk about their failures, they're open, and they want to connect on everything. And so this is one of the most valuable tools in the toolbox for top grading. Also, something they call TORC is the threat of reference check. You know, when you're talking to the candidate, you say, when we speak to all of your past managers, you know, we'll want to hear, you know, both sides of the story. You give them some reassurance that you want to hear both the good and the bad, but in so doing, you're signaling to them, hey, we're going to check up on this, and that gets a much higher level of honesty and really reduces the whitewash that you get in interviews. Raise your hand if you've ever interviewed somebody for a job. Got it. Okay. And raise your hand if you interview people for a job and you've gotten at least 75% of your hires to be A players. One person. Awesome. I want to talk to you later. Okay, so that's it. That's the people pivot, number 2. Okay, so number 3 is the competency pivot. And what I mean here, really quickly, is just for your business to succeed, there are going to be competencies that you need to build, that you need to start to get comfortable with, you and your executives on your team. And some really interesting patterns have emerged in my business over the last 12 years that I wanted to communicate that I think can help you when you have to build a competency in your company. So what's a competency? Right now, some competencies my business is building is things like Japanese customer service, German online reputation management, Australia media buying. You know, we're trying to do things in a lot of countries, you know, and then how do we scale all these people up with the right management structure? So we're learning a lot as we go. And what I've realized is that when we build a competency, there's a discovery phase where you make mistakes, you set up some resources, you try to get the process down, you try to get the people down, you know, people and process being the most important thing. And after enough time goes by, you realize that these people are swindling you, they're screwing it up. But the beautiful thing is that you've learned enough in that discovery phase so that you can find the right people and put them on the right process. So does anyone in this room consider themselves good at building a new competency with the right people and the right process right off the bat? Okay, I was hoping there would be so I could talk to them, but nobody yet. Okay, so, you know, so for example, recently we hired a company to help us out with online reputation management in the US to engage our customers who complain about us online. and solve some of the complaint problems that we've been having. And the first people that, that did the job before we started working with the new company this summer, they were expensive, they took a lot of resources and delivered very little return, but we learned enough from them just through figuring out what they actually did right that then we could then replace them with the next team, which ended up being much more solid. And then we're seeing, in Google, instead of seeing 9 complaints in the top 10 results, then we go to seeing 9 positives, because it's really just a question in the end there of reaching out to the people who had a bad experience, figuring out how to fix it for them. So every competency that you add in your business is valuable, and if it plays a key role in your customer value chain from start to finish. And you might be surprised over the years when you have a company just which competencies end up making the biggest contribution. Okay, so one other competency I wanted to mention today is just a story. This touches on one of the later pivots, but it's on our experience in building a competency of managing vendors and suppliers. And here we went from paying $12 an hour to $4 an hour for our after-hours offshore customer service reps, $7 an hour to $1 an hour for our CD fulfillment, and the quality also skyrocketed. So as you build a competency, you can actually make a meaningful difference to your business in terms of profits, and then also to your, how your customers experience working with you. All right, so sort of parallel to a competency pivot is number 4, which is a prerequisite pivot. And let me see if I can come up with the right language there. So you may discover one day your business has a prerequisite that you didn't even know existed. What are all the prerequisites? Again, like with the competency, it could be some essential part of your value chain that needs adding in. It could be a competency, but it could be something else that's subtle, such as a new report that's generated by some individual in your company might have something that's missing in it that needs adding in to track properly what's going on in your business. New metrics to generate the insight you need. And maybe a new meeting that your team needs to have every week on a certain topic to address some kind of major shortcoming in your business right now. What I want to add in there is as I work with entrepreneurs, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, I always try to see what I can do to help them get to the next level. I found that, how can I say this? I found that most people, when it comes to solving a problem in their business, the reason it's even a problem is because they're not familiar with how to solve it. And the reason they don't dive into it is because they're just anxious. It's a new thing, and their mind sort of backwards rationalizes ways not to deal with it this week. And a good metric for how committed you are to solving a problem in your business or identifying a prerequisite is very simply how much time per week minimum are you going to invest in solving that problem. So I want you to look at that problem that you have written down before, or if you didn't write it down, whatever you thought of before. Ask yourself right now, are you spending at least 2 hours a week? Are you spending at least 4 hours a week? Are you spending at least 20 hours a week focused on solving that problem? And then if you ask yourself that, your mind might say, well, I don't know what to do. My advice to you in that case is just put time on your calendar. If you don't have a calendar, get one. Block out time on your calendar where it's just time that I'm going to spend on that problem, even if I'm just sitting in a dark room moaning about it. Okay, I'm just going to sit there and think about that problem. For everyone who wrote down a problem before, and hopefully it was everyone, raise your hand if you're spending less than 4 hours a week dedicated to solving that problem. Less than 4 hours a week dedicated to solving that problem. Good. For the people who are brave enough to raise your hand right now, that is an opportunity to fix your business just by spending enough time on the problem. It's powerful. It sounds simple, but it's very powerful. Okay. Marketing pivot. For us, this one is always the big win. Anytime we have a new offer, we got onto my company was at a couple million a year, and then we launched on TV, and then we went from 4 million to 21 million a year in sales. The reason we had enough money to launch on TV is that we went from 2 million to 4 million a year by putting our software into Germany, and no one else was advertising in Germany at the time. So you could get into new countries, new types of marketing, a new offer. Right now we're launching on television in Japan to help them speed up their computers. We're launching new types of offers. And so I don't care what works, as long as I have a process in place where I'm constantly trying new things, launching new things. You don't want to be a one-trick pony or one-horse show. What's the expression? Okay? Because if you're stuck, on that one thing, how do you know it's going to work? You might have 25 ideas, maybe 2 of them will work, and that's going to be your moneymaker. But the beautiful thing is that your moneymaker you can ride for years, Whereas your ideas that are not going to work out, hopefully you can design a process where you can find out fairly quickly if they're not going to work out. So ride the 2 that are going to work for a long time, make your profits there, take care of your customers, and then your 23 ideas that are duds, just, bygones, forget about it. Let's see how we're doing on time, halfway through my list here. If you have any insights on anything that was just said, I want you to take the time to just write them down right now. Make a note about, anything. And I'll give you another 30 seconds. And if you don't have anything to write down, think of something. And if you feel a little frustrated by anything I've said, it's push a button and write that down too, because that's a good sign that's something that you ought to focus on. Okay, great. So number 5 was the marketing pivot. Number 6 is a product pivot. Really important to have a process in place for this. Listen to your customers. What products do they want? Even more importantly, sometimes, what do the editors and reviewers want? Do you have a process in your business right now? Or if you're getting ready to launch a business, if you're an aspiring founder, do you have a process in place to review what the editors and reviewers want who are going to be writing articles about your product or your market category? Are you analyzing what they're looking for? Are you figuring out what their requirements are to get a good review? It's crucial to do that, and most companies don't do that. So this might be one takeaway that some of you, this is the only thing that you get out of this, and this is going to be something that makes you millions of dollars. Make it easy for people to love your product's advantages. Okay, that's number 6, the product pivot. Number 7 is the language pivot. You can call it the word pivot. So this one can actually be the most challenging one of them all. It sounds easy. The goal of this pivot is to have language and words that you use to describe your thing, your product, your service, your business, that resonates the most with people. And it is tough to achieve. It's difficult to make it easy for people. And making it easy for people to connect with your product or service is the goal. Because if you don't do that, if you're one of these guys that takes 5 minutes to make an elevator pitch, and you don't sound confident doing it, and you're already at your destination by the time you've even gotten halfway through it, you are not going to succeed. No matter how good your marketing is, no matter how good your product is, no matter how smart you are, if you're not going to a whiteboard to come up with powerful, short, easy-to-understand phrases that describe your business, and it can take a day to come up with 3 words sometimes that make such an impact on your customers, you won't succeed. I guarantee you. So, especially for people in the room near and dear to my heart who are technologists, software people. I'm a computer scientist. When you develop that new thing and become enamored with your product, what we do when we do that is we forget that we have customers, and customers need their minds programmed or reprogrammed by us to understand what is going wrong in their lives that we can help them with. And when it comes to developing language to describe what it is you're doing, most initial entrepreneurs that certainly me and other people I've worked with, what most of us does is say something like, would you like a demo of our product? Our product is this. Our product is that. Our product is better because of this reason. It has this feature and this benefit. It's lower priced. But what we've forgotten is that people get bored of that stuff. And the company that can get out there and instead say something like, have you ever noticed that when you walk down the street and your cell phone vibrates in your pocket and you don't feel it because it's such a weak vibration and you're walking, that you miss an important call, and it may have occurred to you that there's got to be something better than that for your cell phone to do. Our cell phone has the most popular and biggest and loudest vibrator, and you can definitely quiet it down for meetings, but when you're outside, you can put it into massive mode. You're taking the product and you're encapsulating it in a message that connects with their emotions and connects with their experience of life. And so if you're enamored with your product, you're not going to succeed. You need to pivot right now. If you're enamored with your product, you are not going to succeed. You need to pivot right now. Your product is 5% of it. 95% of it, your real product in the end is the powerful words that you can design to connect with your customer, make them feel understood, and make them feel like you understand their problem. So whether your business is going to succeed because it's lower cost, a better distribution method, a better product, than the other guy. You have to connect with that need on the part of the consumer. So I have a friend who makes $100,000 a day on the internet with those yellow teeth ads. Have you ever seen those ads with the yellow teeth on the internet for tooth whitening? Raise your hand. Okay. It's the same stuff you can get at the drugstore. But who wants to go to the drugstore to buy tooth whitening? You know, you just put in your credit card online, you get an auto ship, and then you get your tooth whiteners. So, you know, we need to get out of the mindset that, you know, even as technologists, that we have to have a better product. Sometimes the innovation comes in the marketing, the distribution, pricing, or your team. You know, your team has better salespeople. You know, it's a better sales process. You know, most people get brainwashed and hypnotized that it has to be product, and it doesn't. So I really want everyone to come away from this understanding that language is powerful. It's where the rubber meets the road. And if you're still enamored of the product and your elevator pitch is taking too long and you're stumbling over your words, don't complain to me until you go to a whiteboard for 4 hours one day together with some people that are sort of unblocked to language, and just write down ideas, brainstorm, and, you know, see what you can do there. One final word on this is that sometimes you can design a new category name for your product that differentiates you from your competitors. So designing a new category name is powerful. Let me see if I can think of an example. A lot of people make money online with pet training, and you know, a friend of mine makes a few million a year selling something on parrot training. So his category is parrot training. So that's just a very distinct, you know, category. But it can be more subtle, such as when Salesforce.com got launched, and their category was no software. And they didn't even make a big deal about that they were the best thing. But they made a big deal that they were the only one out there that had a, you know, software as a service, where, you know, no software was always a big differentiator. And their marketing focused on this big red circle with a slash on it that said software. So no software was their language. And that got people thinking in the right way right off the bat. Like, man, I don't want to have to install Act or Goldmine or any of these things. You know, Salesforce.com is what I want. So is this making sense? Is this resonating? Okay. So that was number 7, the language pivot. And, you know, just hearing myself say these things, I want everyone, you know, really to pay attention to that one. Vendor and supplier pivot I touched on before. Not the most exciting part of the business, but, you know, just huge cost savings. You know, some vendors we can save $100,000 a month when we put it out for bid. And to get $100,000 a month in savings is money straight to our bottom line. We might have to sell $500,000 of new product to get that much money in the bank. So your ability to manage vendors and suppliers as your business scales can make a huge difference. Just really quick tips. You might know some of these. Contracts, make sure you have easy outs, no more than an annual commitment if possible, and no weird termination requirements. You know, maintain your flexibility there. Top grade your vendors and suppliers. Do reference checks on them. Make sure that they check out. Get everything in writing. Don't let them trick you and charm you. We've been burned by that plenty of times. Offer to be a reference for the good ones. Take care of the good ones. And most importantly, a regular RFP process for your key vendors and suppliers, the ones that are, you know, that make the biggest difference to your bottom line. Put it out for a bid every year, even if your goal is to stick with the current ones, just so you can keep repricing things and then come back and negotiate the pricing. I always tell my vendors and suppliers when I'm talking to a new one that we're considering working with, I'm loyal. You know, I'm not going to go to another guy because he comes in 5% cheaper necessarily, but if he comes in 20% cheaper, I'm going to want them to try to match it, and I'll give them every chance to match it. And that really gives them a sense that you're in it with them over the long haul. Okay, so that's number 8. Okay, number 9 is the mental pivot, and this might be one of the most important ones just to your whole life. Realize that your own internal pivot is the biggest one that matters. And I just want to ask a few questions here to get you thinking about this. So here are the questions. How quickly can you change and adapt? What internal beliefs and programming do you have about money and success? Did you get any negative message from friends or family growing up that may have created a belief structure that could be sabotaging you right now? Do you have a fear of envy as you succeed? Is that holding you back in subtle ways? Are you worried about, you know, just other people being jealous of you? How resistant is your belief structure to attacks by others? For the founders in the room, has anyone tried to talk you out of being a founder? Put your hand up. Okay. And at the same time, how flexible is your belief structure to permitting contributions by others? How attached are you to your product, or are you flexible in improving it or throwing it out and starting fresh? How do you spend your time? Do you use the word busy? And I want everyone to know busy is a nonsense word. It doesn't exist. You know, we all have a choice. It's a free country. We all have a choice how we spend our time. So when you say the word busy, what you really mean is that is not a priority for me right now. And if you switch from saying busy to saying that is not a priority for me right now, you're speaking authoritatively, you're taking back control, and you'll find that it can create some powerful transformations in how you approach your own life. When you get rid of the word busy and realize it's just a mythical word, it's like the unicorn, okay? Who wants to commit to not using the word busy anymore? All right, good. And number 10, personal life pivot. So here are some more questions to ask yourself. You're a founder. You've created a business. Maybe it's not your first time. But have you just managed to create a new rat race for yourself? Your whole goal is to get out of the rat race. Are you in a new rat race? What support team do you have in your own life to buy time back for yourself as your business grows? For things that don't give you intrinsic pleasure. If you love going to Whole Foods, go to Whole Foods. You love touching the vegetables and the fruit, and it's, some people think it's sexy to do that. Not everybody does. So you might need a housekeeper if you don't think it's great to wash laundry. You might need an errand runner for these things that don't bring you intrinsic pleasure. Don't be a puritanical sufferer, glorify suffering, okay? Let's all get out of suffering. Let's get out of the word busy, take back control, and really figure out, you can back it out of, in your mind, imagine the life that you want, and does that life include doing 4 hours of laundry every week? Does it include going shopping? Does it include this or that? Not that you want to isolate yourself from society, but you want to engage with society in the way that you want to, doing the things that you want to do. And I'm here. I'm not at my business right now. I'm not making money, but my goal is to make you money. This brings me intrinsic value and pleasure, coming back here and making a difference. So here's the thought experiment that all of this pivot stuff comes down to, which is that what do you really want in your life if your business was netting you $25 million a year in profits? What do you really want in your life if your business was netting you $25 million a year in profits, or whatever figure is, a big figure for you? And that's a personal question, and one that you might not have an answer for today, and that's okay. So those are the 10 pivots, and what I want to do right now in the time remaining, let me just check time. Yeah, we've got about 18 minutes left for questions, and I think before we get into questions, I want everyone to write down on your phone or paper, whatever you got, which is, what is your one takeaway from this event? And is the thing that you wrote down before different now that you heard all that stuff, or is it the same? And take a minute now to write it down, think about it, and then in a minute, I'm going to have you talk to the person sitting next to you and tell them what you got out of it, because it's a powerful way to remember this stuff. Not doing that, will double the chances that you forget this. So take a minute, and then I'll tell you when to share it. Again, what's your one takeaway? And what's the one thing that you want to focus on to get the most impact on taking your business to the next level? And has it changed from what it may have been an hour ago? Yeah, another 20 seconds. Okay, great. Pick someone near you and just share whatever you've just come up with. Before we go into the general Q&A, I would like to know who, raise your hand if what you put down changed between the beginning and the end of the talk. Put your hand up and keep your hand up. All right, and for the people who have your hands up right now, would you be willing to tell your story on the, in front of the group? Anybody? You? Okay, can we get the gentleman a hot mic? This is the hot mic? Okay.
Hello. My name's Eric Greenberg, and I guess when I first started listening to you speak, I wrote down just spending more time on marketing, which is, as a technology person, I haven't really been very good at performing in that manner. And really what it came down to was expanding it from just marketing to using your concept of focusing on problems and being able to schedule, basically, and make better use of time for solving problems, not just on marketing, which is one segment of time which I would need to focus on, but any others as well. So,
good. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, I mean,
sure.
That's the whole reason I put time management first. Such a powerful one. Who's next? Let's keep it going. Anybody? Gentleman in the back.
I think over the past few months, I found myself using the word busy almost every day. So it was a really good wake-up call. I entirely agree with what you said, but it just kind of makes the point that it's good to have a coach even when you feel strong and qualified in a certain area. It's good to hear that. And the content of what I wrote down didn't change, but the amount of time and the amount of priority that I'm going to put on it changed immediately.
Great. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's go for person over here.
Yeah, so I think for me, what kind of changed from the beginning to the end was kind of how you defined a pivot. I kind of had in my mind what I thought a pivot was. But you really sort of broadened that, by breaking into like different areas of the business. So that was kind of, at the beginning I was like, oh, okay, I think I know what he's going to talk about because he's going to talk about the pivot. And then I was like, wow, he's talking about all these other things that I didn't really think of. And I think the one thing that really struck for me was relating your product pitch to the pain point. That's something in my company that we're doing. We've been very sort of, feature benefit focused in our pitch and kind of relating it to the pain and being able to do that elevator pitch from a perspective of talking about the person's pain point. And so I'm living that right now. So that really kind of hit home. And the other thing that really hit home was to be enamored with your product. And as you hire more people, making sure that kind of carries through. Because when you're an early stage company, everybody sells. It doesn't matter what department you're in. Even if you're an engineer, you're going to be out in events, you're going to be talking to people. You've got to be able to be excited about what you're doing in order to keep the momentum going. And that was another thing that, really kind of, stuck out in my mind.
Great, thank you for saying that. And yeah, the truth is you have a menu of opportunities when it comes to looking at all these different pivot levels. If it feels overwhelming, keep in mind you don't have to do all of them. You can be very selective about which level you're handling your business life on, at any particular moment in time or a period of time. Great, one more in the back. It's all the people on the periphery speaking up.
So I'm actually going to read what I have written and what I changed. So my name is Chirantan. I run a small software development company. The first thing that I thought when you said to write down was, I need customer funding and an A team. And the
customer funding and what?
An A team, a team of
A
team.
Players. Yeah, an A team, A players.
Right.
Yep.
And the whole premise behind this was that I need speed. Need funding, need speed. Of course, that is still important, but then at the end, what I wrote was that I need to find ways to connect with my customers with simple ease, with empathy, and what their problems. And if I relate that, that can really precede everything, and I kind of narrowed it down. I thought that was far more important. Of course, it was like a business case thing. You need customers, funding, and a team, but just narrowed it down, that simplify your message and take it to your customers.
Great. So, thank you.
Thank you. Very helpful. Thank you.
Happy to help. And if, connecting with customers, the money will come, whether it's from them or from investors or whoever. They'll want to put money into it. Great. We have 10 minutes. We can either have free time, or if there are any questions that anyone wants to ask, we could do that too. Put your hand up if you've got something you want to say on the mic. Person over here.
I noticed you talked about you sell your product in a number of different countries. And with every country that you enter, they've got their own culture. You have to market differently. You have to sell differently. So I was curious about how did each new country that you entered, pivot your business? How did you have to change as a company fundamentally in order to serve a new market in a different country?
Yeah, very good question. Countries are a huge challenge because they do have different cultures and different traditions and patterns. You want to just hear a story or two to maybe put it in perspective? In Germany, we went live in 2007, and it was making more money than the U.S. We made over half our profits and revenues in Germany for 2007. That's what enabled us to really grow, because we took those profits and put it into TV. But we realized after a period of years and having sort of, results went up and down, that the Germans, they're not like Americans. They're more risk averse. So they'll buy your product, and they don't ask for refunds as much as the Americans do. They'll really focus on doing a lot to get it to work. But they will do a lot of research on you before they even buy your product. And what's on you, what's there about you online has to look good. And with us, we realized there were some customers of ours. We have over 1 million customers, and if only 1% of them complain, that's going to be 10,000 complaints on the internet. So we realized that the customers of ours, that we weren't taking care of them when they posted online, was really dragging down our results from all the other Germans that were considering buying from us. And so some countries are more risk takers, some are more risk averse. Some are more transactional. Some are more relationship-based. And not only the customers, the places we advertise. In Germany, they wouldn't take our money to advertise on their websites and on their television properties until I flew out to Germany. I drank beer with them. I partied with them. I gave them the key to my condo here in Philly when they, were in town and I wasn't. And until they felt like we were tight, they wouldn't even take our money. And one company took our money, and then the start date of the ad came and went, and they never ran our ad. And we heard from them weeks later, they're like, oh, yeah, we just haven't gotten around to it yet. Would never happen in the US or the UK, which are very transactional countries. So I don't know what I don't know yet in those countries, but we figured out a couple of things. So who's next to ask a question?
You mentioned Richard Branson and not being implementation challenged. To what extent do you think that is something that grows out of a personality, might not be fungible in a person? And to what extent, or can you reflect on how you might have changed in terms of your behavior in ways that might not even be, that might be against the grain of your personality in order to achieve that kind of effectiveness in implementation?
Sure. Very good question. I want to just step back from that question a little bit and say, when studying successful people, we can often be overwhelmed by just how much they've succeeded and not quite see right away how to generalize those lessons to our own life experiences. So what I took from Richard Branson is not that I'm going to start an airline, and maybe I will, but I'm going to start an airline, insurance company, record company, and an island in the Caribbean. But it showed me that there may be an opportunity to go to the next level of implementation in a meaningful way for me. So everyone in this room is going to be more cautious in life than Richard Branson. I mean, he's just, he put on a women's bikini to get a party going in the Midwest when they were being boring, and he kept trying to get them drunk and nothing was happening. He tells a story in one of his books. So, are you going to put on a red virgin bikini? Maybe. The point is, we all have areas of our life in which our caution may have worked for us in the past, but it now holds us back in business, personal life, whatever. And examining how to be less cautious in that aspect of our life and how to be less implementation disabled in that aspect of our life, and drilling down there and really choosing to invest the time in that aspect of our business life, personal life, or whatever, is where we're going to get leverage. You don't have to be, we don't have to be Richard Branson, but we can take steps in our lives that are generalized from observing how he does his own things. I'm not sure I answered your question, but that's the reaction that came out of it.
I guess the follow-up would be, are there any ways that you feel yourself on a day-to-day basis thinking, gosh, I really, it's against my grain to have to do this, whether it's put on the red bikini or make a call to somebody or whatever it is, and yet you kind of force yourself to overcome that? Or do you find that you're really naturally suited to the role you're in life, and that's why it works for you, and that's why it's easy for you to see, well, Richard Branson functions like this, and I can do it too, because in a lesser degree, I'm like Richard Branson.
Sure. Yeah. Given that we only had 45 minutes today, I really didn't get into this topic that I usually like to get into, but I'm glad you asked, and it comes down to studying naturals. 3% of people are naturals in any pursuit, and the 97% of us that are not can generalize lessons from them. And, what I do in my life that's not natural to me is this. Speaking. I'd rather be pushing buttons at my computer than doing this. I'd rather be talking one-on-one to somebody than doing this. But, this is an aspect of my life that I'm not comfortable with. And so I always say yes to a speaking opportunity, even though, 200 people looking at me. It's crazy. It's scary. So what other aspects of my business that, are, uncomfortable for me? Yeah, dealing with the regulators and the government, it's just annoying and unpleasant. Lawsuits and litigation used to be unpleasant, but it's gotten better because we win all the time. So, federal court is our playground now, but it used to be very scary and expensive for us. I just want to say to everybody, just analyze and discover the part of your life where you're holding back from that part of your life, and you've got the biggest opportunity for improving. But don't let the naturals turn you off. Don't say, well, oh my God, I'll never be like that. Just say, here I am, I'm me, and I can get to the next level by trying a couple things that they seem to do, whether they know it or not. And, is it innate to us? It can be. Richard Branson, when he talks in his autobiography, when he was 5 years old, his mom or grandmother or aunt or whoever it was woke him up and made him jump in a cold lake and go swimming. And, they were always pushing his limits and boundaries from a very young age. So, you know, if you're growing up with an upbringing where that's happening, then you can be more unblocked lifelong. But again, who cares? You know, all that matters, the past is the past, all that matters is where you are now, and can you take a step, whether it's an inch or a yard or a mile, in that direction that you want to go in. But it's just like, oh my God, what's going on here?
Great, and I've got a question myself, Richard Branson theme. You know, entrepreneurs are constantly coming up with new ideas the whole time, even while they're working on something themselves. And sometimes that gets in the way. What is your sort of advice for that? You know, you're working on a project or you work on your own business, and yet you feel that something else is coming along that could be better. You know, is that something you come across?
I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe you could give an example.
Sure. I think a lot of people are working on their products at the moment.
A lot of people working on what?
On products or their business at the moment,
yeah.
Whereby they feel that if they added a new feature, it could increase their revenue significantly. However, their first product has not yet been complete. And yet it's sort of shifting across to the new product at a certain stage. Is it, you know, is there a stage you should do that?
Oh, okay, I get it, yeah.
You know, or a new business idea comes along, let's say, for example, and you feel it's a lot better than the business idea that you're currently working on.
Yeah, okay. This is something I work with on entrepreneurs a lot, and myself. You will feel the pressure as you get through your plan, you know, when you execute. You'll feel internal pressure when future ideas come, and you can't relieve that pressure unless you write it down somewhere. So if you're sitting there and you're working on version 1, and then, you know, you've got version 2 ideas, I'm working on a project now just like that. What I do is I open up a Google Doc. You know, Google Docs are awesome because you can share them with people. You can see in real time what the other guy's typing if you've given him permissions to type on your doc while you're typing. If you've never used it, go to docs.google.com, put everything in there. You can create an online spreadsheet, online document, online drawing. And what I do is any project I'm working on, I create a feature pipeline where if an idea pops into my mind, I will put it down in some future area of that document lower down. It might be in an unscheduled ideas section, or I might even, you know, pick a place to schedule it in. Not doing that hurts you because the pressure of that idea is still going to bug you. It's going to consume minutes out of your day. But as soon as you get it down there, it won't even come to your mind anymore until you're ready to handle it. So the question is not, do I do this or not? The question is, when do I do it? What's my pipeline? Does that help? Good. You know, again, it comes down to task management. And I suppose idea management, too.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much today. Very much enjoyed this opportunity.
We hope you enjoyed this program from the Founder Factory. For more information, visit phillystartupleaders.org. We produce this program in the studios of Professional Podcasts in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. For everyone at the Philly Startup Leaders and Founder Factory, this is Steve Lubetkin. Thank you for joining us, and take good care.